Very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1 live and direct from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. Bringing you the news, I'm Joadabdin.
And I'm Rochelle Tabodra. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Sri Lanka avoids penalties after IMF finds reporting errors. If the United States increases tariffs, the apparel sector could be in jeopardy. A warning from the opposition. Shakti program to end poverty. Former Minister Mangala Samaravira's personal assistant targeted in a shooting. Former Minister Mervyn released on bail.
And on to those stories in detail. In your top story this evening, the Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund has reviewed a series of non-complying purchases made by Sri Lanka under its 2023 extended arrangement under the Extended Fund Facility following the discovery of inaccurate reporting related to expenditure arrears. Despite the breach, the IMF has decided to grant waivers and not pursue further action, citing corrective measures and a commitment to reform by Sri Lankan authorities. This matter was raised at a press briefing held this evening.
Can you elaborate on what areas that the government had underreported this data and what proposals that the government has given for the government to move forward with the program on data submission?
So first of all, on the inaccurate data that Zulfik asked, so let me give you a little bit more detail here. So in the course of a regular review that we as staff undertook with the authorities during the going over the budget appropriation, we identified a inadvertent underreporting of data. One source of these arrears was due to the previous interest subsidy scheme for senior citizens. That was the one that ran out in end of 2022. Now, I should mention that the data, part of that data that was released was also the outstanding liabilities were also published by the authorities on a separate report by the Ministry of Finance, but they were not reported to the fund. And so this and some other schemes that we were discussing with the authorities, alongside with some other weaknesses in the timely reporting of outstanding liabilities by line ministries to the Ministry of Finance, created a misunderstanding by the authorities on the definition of arrears under the Technical Memorandum of Understanding of the program. So the combination of these created an underreporting on the stock of arrears, which means that under the QPC, under the quantitative performance criterion, this was missed in the last three reviews. The first review, the second review, and the third review, which gave rise to a breach of the authorities' commitment for the provision of accurate data. We worked very closely with the authorities to rectify the issue, to provide the corrected data on these arrears. And the authorities have indeed undertaken several corrective measures in the interim since we started discussing this. They have started reporting to us the full stock of arrears that have been accumulated, and they have made progress in putting a plan to clear these existing arrears. The authorities also committed to improving the processes and practices in keeping track of these arrears going forward. And as I mentioned, we will also help with technical assistance. There was a lot of clarity from the side of the authorities into what was owed to whom. It's just that it was not reported properly to the fund under the program requirements. So when we presented all this evidence to the executive board under the managing director's recommendation, the board approved the authority's request for a waiver of this non-observance of this quantitative performance criterion. And so this allowed the fourth review, now the one that we're talking about now, to take place and to be granted, to be approved.
The IMF mission chief also commented on revenue and policy.
Sustained revenue mobilization is critical to restoring fiscal sustainability and creating the necessary fiscal space. To that extent, strengthening tax exemption frameworks and boosting tax compliance, along with enhancing public financial management, are vital steps in ensuring fiscal policy. Ensuring effective fiscal policy. There's also a need to further improve the coverage and targeting of social support to the most vulnerable members of society. A smoother execution execution of capital spending within the fiscal envelope would help foster medium-term growth. Establishing cost recovery electricity pricing and automatic electricity tariff adjustments are commendable and should be maintained in order to contain the fiscal risks. All these actions are essential to ensure that the energy sector remains viable and can support the country's economic growth.
The Praja Shakti National Programme will be launched tomorrow at the Temple Trees under the patronage of President Andrukumara Dissanayake. The programme, initiated by the current government, aims to empower communities and ensure the equitable distribution of economic benefits. The Praja Shakti programme is designed as a multidimensional approach to community empowerment, aligning with the government's official policy framework. Among the 3 national level programmes, Shakti specifically seeks to ensure fair distribution of economic development outcomes to promote targeted, inclusive development across rural areas. This program is implemented under the National Policy Council headed by the President. 9 ministers are included in this council.
One goal is rural development, especially the introduction of a coordinated framework to end rural poverty. Secondly, it also aims to involve the general public to end poverty. This means implementing development through public participation. Thirdly, making people rich. We will create community development committees at the Gramanildari level. These community development committees will be formed by the officials and the people of the village. The duty of the community development committee will be to propose development projects that would suit the village. We have given special attention to this rural development and rural poverty eradication movement, focusing on 3 main themes of empowerment and also on protection.
මේ දිලිඳු භාවයෙන් තුරන් වීම සහ සංඛ්‍යාත්මකව තියෙන අය ප්‍රමාණය අඩු කිරීමට මේක ඇතුළේ තියෙන මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල මොකක්ද?
We are no longer promoting a dependency mindset. Under this program, we don't intend to provide financial aid or assistance. Instead of giving handouts, we're making citizens and communities active partners in development programs. Our goal is to empower them to plan and lead development initiatives, enabling them to monitor and follow up on these projects. We'll help them identify their development needs and coordinate with the relevant implementing agencies so they can become the direct beneficiaries of these efforts. We need to establish 14,008 community development councils within the 14,008 Gramanildari divisions and analyze them thoroughly. We'll then need to adopt a program structure for implementing these development proposals after a comprehensive analysis. National level proposals will go to the relevant ministries. Provincial level proposals will go to the provincial councils. District level and local level proposals will be handled at their respective district and divisional levels. We plan to maximize the contribution of information technology and modern technology to this entire process, and that's how we intend to carry it out. We've established a special unit within the Presidential Secretariat. The Praja Shakti program is driven by our determination to advance national development by integrating not only the government but also the private sector and the public. This is the priority of our program. Through it, we aim to empower rural communities and involve them in this initiative.
The People's Struggle Movement says that if the 44% tariff imposed by the American president comes into effect from the 9th July, Sri Lanka's garment industry faces a risk of collapse. Meanwhile, it was reported today that Vietnam, which was subject to a 46% tariff, has reached an agreement to reduce the tariff.
President Donald Trump said that the US will charge 20% tariffs on imports from Vietnam under a new trade deal reached during last-minute negotiations. Trump said in a social media post that under the agreement, Vietnam will charge no tariffs on US products. The president said on social media, quote, "Vietnam will do something that they have never done before, give the United States of America total access to their markets for trade." In other words, they will open their market to the United States, meaning that we will be able to sell our product into Vietnam at zero tariff. End quote. Separately, the Trump family has recently announced development projects in Vietnam. The country's government approved a plan by the Trump Organization and local business Kinback City Development to invest $1.5 billion in hotels, golf courses and luxury real estate. The Trump Organization is also scouting for locations to build a Trump Tower in Ho Chi Minh City. Countries including the European Union and Japan are negotiating agreements with the United States before implementing the proposed tax hike. The US president says he is ready to negotiate a deal.
It's so simple. We're sending letters. They're talking to all these countries. We made a deal pretty much with India. We made a deal with China. We made a deal with UK. We made deals. But I'd rather just send them a letter, a very fair letter, saying, congratulations, we're going to allow you to trade in the United States of America.
The tariffs announced by President Trump on the 2nd of April are scheduled to be implemented from the 9th of July. If these tariffs come into effect, a 44% tariff rate will be imposed on goods exported from Sri Lanka to the United States. During a press conference held today, the People's Struggle Movement explained the issues that would arise if this tariff rate is implemented.
Once the 44% tax is imposed, the apparel sector will inevitably collapse, leading to businesses being forced to close down. The government was aware of the issue beforehand but failed to act immediately when the problem first arose. Only after public debate and discussion did a government team visit the United States. However, the government still hasn't disclosed what was discussed or even who they spoke to. There is no point in just speaking to someone in the United States about the tariff over a cup of tea. Now the deadline is approaching and the 44% tariff is about to be reimposed on Sri Lankan apparels and investments. The government remains silent on this matter. If the government fails to resolve this issue properly, it will severely impact the apparel sector, which will affect the entire economy and the national treasury. The government isn't addressing the issue or doesn't seem to be concerned. After a few more days, once the deadline passes, the government will likely send another team to the United States, claiming they'll go and discuss it again. This perceived lack of intervention by the government is a major criticism, as the burden of these tariffs and the resulting economic hardship will ultimately fall on the common people through increased electricity bills, fuel prices and bus fares. Therefore, it's a problem that directly affects the citizens.
The Samagi Jan Balawege also weighed in on this matter.
If this issue cannot be resolved, if we cannot face this problem, other countries around the world, many countries in Asia itself, have gone and negotiated and they've managed to reduce the import duties on their goods entering the United States. However, our country has failed to do so. The world has reached a point where it no longer trusts or accepts what people from this country say.
With only 7 days left until America's decision to implement the 44% tariff comes into effect, the question is, what is Sri Lanka doing about this? This issue is once again being brought to the public's attention.
US President Donald Trump said former aide Elon Musk would have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa amid a row over his tax breaks and Trump's narrowly passed spending bill.
Tensions are rising between two high-profile figures in American politics and business, President Donald Trump and tech billionaire Elon Musk. While the billionaire owner of Tesla and SpaceX was once a key aide to Trump and a major donor to his presidential campaign last year, Trump's Big Beautiful Bill has created a public rift between Trump and Musk. Musk has repeatedly decried the bill online and has threatened to form a new political party as a response to the bill passing. Musk stands to be affected by the finance bill that the Senate narrowly passed on Tuesday, as it ends tax credits worth up to $7,500 for purchases of electric vehicles from the 30th of September. This could significantly reduce consumer demand for EVs in the US. In a Truth Social post on Monday, Trump wrote, quote, "Without subsidies, Elon would probably have to close up shop and head back home to South Africa. No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production. and our country would save a fortune, end quote. Trump added, quote, perhaps we should have Doge take a good, hard look at this. According to a biography of him written in 2023 by journalist Walter Isaacson, Musk was born in 1971 in Pretoria, South Africa, to a Canadian mother and South African father. At the age of 17, he moved to Canada, of where he is also a citizen. In 1992, he moved to the US to study at the University of Pennsylvania. He became a naturalized US citizen in 2002. Overnight Monday, Musk reposted the results of an unscientific poll conducted through his X feed early last month, asking if the US needs a political party that actually represents the 80% in the middle. Monday afternoon, Musk suggested that the America Party would be formed if, quote-unquote, this insane spending bill passes, saying the US needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican Uniparty so that the people actually have a voice. On Tuesday, when reporters asked Trump if he was going to deport Musk, he said, quote, we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon, end quote.
We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem, it blows up, you know.
The 9th July deadline for tariff negotiations was raised at the IMF press briefing as well.
Zulfikar from Newsfirst, Sri Lanka. Just a follow-up to that question with regard to the US and trade. Now, one of South Asia's biggest trading partners is the US. Now, President Trump has already signaled deals with countries like Vietnam and India. But however, for small economies like Sri Lanka, Maldives, Bangladesh, there is still uncertainty around it. So given the uncertainty around it, will the fund be looking at changing certain targets with these countries that are already in programs, or will there be any revisit to the financing already given to these countries?
On July 9th and the tariff deadline, to the extent possible and feasible, we will take into account as many of the trade deals or announcements that are made, and we will take those into account in our July WEO update. And we're paying, of course, close attention to the situation globally. I think it's also, as we've been saying, this is a moment for the global economy marked by high uncertainty. And so that uncertainty is something that is still with us, and we're also taking the fact that we're at a moment of high uncertainty into account in thinking about our forecasts for the global economy.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has officially launched the country's first ever comprehensive financial literacy curriculum. The announcement was made by Dr. Nandalal Virasinghe, Governor of the Central Bank, who described the initiative as a foundational step toward building a financially informed and inclusive society.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka has officially launched the country's first ever comprehensive financial literacy curriculum.
I'm delighted to unveil Sri Lanka's first comprehensive financial literacy curriculum, a foundational resource meticulously designed to guide all future financial education endeavor nationwide. This comprehensive curriculum encompasses 7 essential domains. First, the economic environment. Secondly, the financial environment. Thirdly, personal financial management is a very important module. And the fourth, financial management for micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs. This is also one of the critical gaps that we have in MSMEs. And fifthly, the digital financial literacy, that is an emerging need for the financial education. And then sixth, financial consumer protection. This is also one of the important areas that we are hearing from financial consumers, that their protection is relatively weak. And then tax literacy is an important one also, awareness of the tax and responsibilities of taxation, tax literacy. So there are 7 modules in this curriculum. This curriculum will be made publicly accessible in all 3 national languages. That's very important to have the proper outreach in all 3 national languages through our website, ensuring universal accessibility. We envision widespread adoption by educational institutions. The financial literate citizen transcends the role of mere consumer. They become an empowered individual capable of making informed financial decisions, protecting themselves from fraud, planning strategically for the future and entrepreneurship, and ultimately contributing to inclusive economic growth and financial stability.
Chief Representative of the Japan International Cooperation Agency has emphasized the need for robust regulation and supervision of lending institutions in Sri Lanka to ensure meaningful financial inclusion, especially for vulnerable communities.
We believe that as much as financial literacy of the beneficiaries, borrowers, should be improved, at the same time, proper regulation and supervision of lending institutions is essential to achieve the real financial inclusion. For example, in Japan, the over-indebtedness of the borrowers had been a serious issue, especially until 80s, 90s, and until early 2000s. However, the amendments of the Money Lending Business Act in 2006 made huge contribution to protect the general public, especially the low-income vulnerable people. The amended act has limited or regulated the excessively high interest rates, set the ceiling for the amounts of lending based on the annual income of the borrowers, and strengthened the supervision and the penalties on lenders, especially unauthorized ones, breaching the laws. Also, it has strictly prohibited the harsh collection of money by lenders. Turning to the current situation in Sri Lanka, we are aware that the Microfinance and the Credit Regulatory Authority Bill is currently under review with the intention of introducing proper regulation of lenders. The proper framework to regulate the problematic lender is useful not only to protect the vulnerable borrowers, but also to enhance the growth and expansion of the lenders with proper practices. With these thoughts in mind, we reaffirm our aspiration to further discussing and working closely with the CBSL as well as other stakeholders for further advancements of financial literacy initiatives.
Samira Manahara, who previously served as the personal secretary to the late Minister Mangala Samaravira, was injured in a shooting incident earlier this morning. The attack also claimed the life of another individual who was accompanying him. According to police reports, 2 women who were present at the scene were also injured during the incident.
A shocking shooting incident unfolded around 10 a.m. in front of the Kandana Public Market Complex, leaving 1 man and 3 others injured, including 2 women. According to police, 2 unidentified assailants arrived on a motorcycle and opened fire on a car carrying 2 individuals. The attackers used a T-56 assault rifle in the ambush and fled the scene immediately after the shooting. Officers later recovered approximately 26 spent bullet casings from the crime scene. The 2 men inside the vehicle sustained serious injuries and were rushed to the Rugby Teaching Hospital. Two women were hospitalized, one who was struck by the vehicle during the shooting and another who sustained gunshot injuries. Police said that Samira Manahara, who serves as personal secretary to former Minister Mangala Samaravira, sustained injuries to his abdomen from gunfire. His companion, identified as Upali Kulwardana, was pronounced dead at the scene. He was a 50-year-old resident of Kandana. The shooting occurred while the two men were returning home after visiting a fitness center. The Colombo North Crimes Division has launched an investigation into the murder. Police suspect that an organized criminal gang may be behind the attack.
Shalika Madhushani, a 26-year-old girl, was murdered in Dodangalla, Deopahala in Kuruvita last evening. Shalika, who was employed at a gem carving workshop in Hindalena, was accustomed to using public transport. She arrived in Deopahala at about 6 yesterday to make her way home. She was unable to reach home, located about 3 kilometers away from the bus stop. A statement from the police media division said that her throat was slashed and her gold chain had been stolen.
එනකොට මට මගේ නෝනා හම්බුණාට පස්සේ මං කෑ ගැහුවා මගේ දුව නැහැ කියලා. ඊට පස්සේ මේ වත්තේ කට්ටියත් එක්ක ඇවිල්ලා මං දුව බැලුවා. දුව බලනකොට මගේ දුව මරලා දාලා එහෙම හිටියා මේ ගහ ළඟට වෙලා. ඊට පස්සේ අපි උස්සගෙන ගියා රත්තුමර හොස්පිටල් එකට. ඉතින් ඒකට නැති වෙලා කියලා මට කිව්වා. එච්චරයි. සීයේ මුකුත් නැහැ. ඒතකොටත් ඔක්කොම වෙලා ඉවරයි. අරන් තියෙන්නේ මේ චේන් එකයි
Officers from the Ratnapura and Kuruvita police divisions arrived at the crime scene and began their investigation, assisted by a police K9 unit. According to the police, the K9 soon stopped near a young man who was in the vicinity. Accordingly, the 17-year-old suspect was arrested by the police. A tense situation arose when police officers attempted to take the suspect to the police station as villagers tried to assault the suspect, forcing police to fire into the air to control the situation. The police are interrogating the arrested youth and a broad investigation into the murder is underway. A man was injured when police opened fire at a motorcycle that failed to stop at a roadblock near the Lellama Bridge in Dungalpitiya, Negombo. Police reported that officers acting on a tip-off about drugs being transported had ordered the motorcyclist to stop at a checkpoint. However, the motorcyclist sped past the roadblock, leading to a police chase. During the pursuit, the motorcycle collided with a lorry. Following the crash, police apprehended the pillion rider. According to the police, when they tried to arrest the motorcyclist, he allegedly attempted to shoot at the officers. In response, the police fired shots and subsequently arrested the suspect. The injured suspect is currently receiving treatment at the Negombo hospital. Police fired tear gas this afternoon to control the unrest that erupted after the funeral of the young man who was murdered in Kahawata. The 22-year-old man, identified as Iranta Suranjana, was murdered on the 30th of last month. Iranta Suranjana died recently in a shooting along Andana Road, Koskala, Kahawata. Police said that the main suspect in this shooting, who was identified as an individual involved in business in the area, left for Dubai about a year ago. Police suspect the murder was planned due to a dispute between Iranta's twin brother and the suspect's wife. Iranta's final rites were observed today and residents protested against the Kahawata police officers who were present there. Subsequently, tear gas was fired to control the unrest that broke out. Meanwhile, a group had set fire to a three-wheeler that was parked in front of a house in the area. Family members of the deceased reported that on the 30th of June, an armed group came to the house along Andana Road, Koskayala Kahawatha, posing as police officers, and that they handcuffed and took away the two twin brothers and their friend. The elder of the twin brothers managed to escape, while Irantha Suranjana was killed and their 27-year-old friend was injured. Police stated that the two young men were taken in a jeep and shot at a secluded location in Koskayala. Police said that the handcuffs used in the abduction of the young men do not belong to the police and that extensive investigations are underway regarding the matter. 4 police teams have been deployed for the investigations. It was also confirmed that statements have been recorded from around 50 individuals. Yesterday, the police issued a statement denying reports that the murdered youth and his family members acted as police informants, calling those reports completely false. Meanwhile, Sumit Karnaratna, who served as the officer in charge of the Kahawatha police station, has been transferred to the Jaffna police division.
Senior police officer Shania Besekar assumed duties as the director of the Criminal Investigation Department today. Previously, he served as the director of the Criminal Intelligence Analysis and Prevention Division. Shania Besekar also served as the director of the CID during the period from 2017 to 2019.
Newsfirst with the people.
I get that, I say, blow up a condom.
Exactly. And he blows it like a balloon. I was like, this is not fitting, bro. That's another problem that you're having.
Now I'm saying, how many can we fit in?
Yeah, exactly.
Prioritizing crucial conversations. No guilt, no shame, no myths. This is Leaving No One Behind. This Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV1.
The Paddy Marketing Board began purchasing paddy harvest for the yellow season today. Chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, Manjula Pinalanda, said that government paddy stores in harvesting areas are currently open.
The government has announced a guaranteed price for paddy. Accordingly, the price for a kilogram of Nadu paddy has been set at 120 rupees, Samba paddy at 125 rupees and Kiri Samba paddy at 132 rupees. This time, a guaranteed price has also been set for wet paddy, which is a special feature. Accordingly, a kilogram of wet Nadu paddy is 102 rupees. A kilogram of wet Samba paddy is 105 rupees. A kilogram of wet Kiri Samba paddy is 112 rupees. This is how the Palle Malala paddy store in Hambantota and the government paddy store in Akkarepattu were also opened this morning. Harvesting is currently underway in the Pothuwil area of Ampara and government paddy stores were opened today.
දැනට අපි පොතුවිල් සහ පානම ගබඩා අද දින ඉඳලා විවෘත කරනවා. මුදල් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා අපට මේ මිලදී ගන්න.
நெல்லுக்கு அரசாங்கம் சரியான விலையை நிர்ணயிச்சிருக்காங்க. அதை கடற்கரைகள் வந்து சரியான விலையை தராம குறைஞ்ச விலைக்கு வாங்கி கொண்டு போறாங்க. அதால அரசாங்கம் அந்த நெல்லை கொள்வனவு செஞ்சா எங்களுக்கு நிறைய லாபத்தை பெற்றுக் கொள்ளலாம்.
Farmers in the Mullaitivu district say that they are happy that the government has set a guaranteed price during the paddy harvesting season.
அதோட இந்த எங்கட பிரதேசத்துக்கு இப்ப வெட்டு நடக்கிற சந்தர்ப்பத்தில் நெல்லுக்கு வந்து நெல்லை வெளியே போட்டது எங்களுக்கு சந்தோஷம். தனியாரை வந்து கட்டாம அரசாங்கமே ஃபுல்லா கட்டணும்னு சொல்லி நான் இந்த இதை கேட்டுக்கொள்கிறேன்.
The Kantale, Seruvila, Suryapura and Tambalugamuwa paddy storage facilities were not open today.
මට වයස අවුරුදු 60ක් වෙනවා. ඒ අවුරුදු 60 දී ගොවියෙක් විදියට දැන් අවුරුදු 40ක් 42ක් මම ගොවිතැන් කරනවා. මේ අවුරුදු 42කට ගොවියෙක් විදියට ගොයන් පීදෙන්න කලින් අද ඇත්තම අමුවි වලටත් අපිට මිලක් නියම කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම වීගන්ට මුදල් ප්‍රතිපාදන වෙන් කරලා දීලා තියෙනවා.
මම දීලා වැඩ කිරුවා වැඩන්න අඩුවට වීල් ටික දෙන්න. බෞද්ධකම දාලා ඇවිල්ලා අඩු ගන්නට ගෙනියනවා. රජය ගන්නව නැති අපි කැමති දෙන්න. 110ට කොහොමවත් යන්නේ නැහැ. කුණු කොල්ලට තමයි ගන්න ඉති. ඒව රජයෙන් ඇවිල්ලා බලලා මොන හරි කරන්න ඕන දුප්පත් මිනිස්සුන්ට නේ.
This was the clarification given by the chairman of the Paddy Marketing Board, Manjula Pinalanda, regarding the process through which the board is purchasing paddy.
When it comes to selling paddy to the private sector, farmers highlight the fact that private buyers come directly to them to purchase the paddy, whereas farmers have to transport their paddy to government stores. They also argue that selling it to the private sector is more profitable.
We don't have the facilities to arrange that yet. The current situation at the Paddy Marketing Board is that we only have one lorry. Also, we don't currently have a method to dry wet paddy after purchasing it. Therefore, we can only buy it if it's brought to us dried at the proper standard.
Is there a tendency for farmers to bring paddy to the stores?
No, we opened the stores this morning and I haven't received any such reports yet.
Minister of Agriculture K.D. Lal Kanta clarified matters regarding the ongoing paddy purchasing process. Due to limited paddy production in certain areas, the government has already commenced paddy purchasing for the Yalla season. There is no issue with funding, as we are capable of allocating the necessary amount of money. The price has been set at 120 rupees per kilogram, and no one will be allowed to purchase paddy from farmers at a price lower than that. Additionally, this time we have also paid attention to the purchase of moist paddy. The private sector usually buys moist paddy because they have the facilities to dry it. The Paddy Marketing Board did not have such capacity previously. However, this time we have prepared a program to purchase moist paddy as well. During the last 2024-25 Maha season, farmers were able to sell their harvest without any issue and received a good price. We have now designed a program to maintain that positive situation going forward. The Gampaha High Court today ordered release on bail former Minister Mervyn Silva and 2 other individuals. The decision was made during a hearing before High Court Judge WKD Vijayratna following a bail application submitted by former Minister Mervyn Silva. The other 2 suspects granted bail are Jayanta Cabral and Naveen Veerakone. All 3 suspects were released on a cash bail of 200,000 rupees each and 5 personal sureties amounting to 500,000 rupees each. In addition to the bail conditions, the court imposed the travel ban preventing the suspects from leaving the country. They were also strictly warned not to interfere with witnesses or attempt to influence the investigation.
The Rugby World Cup qualifying match between Sri Lanka and the United Arab Emirates will take place tomorrow at the Racecourse Grounds in Colombo as part of the Asian Regional Qualification Tournament. The match is scheduled to be broadcast live on Sirasa TV, allowing fans across the country to tune in and support the national team.
As part of the Asian Regional Qualifiers for the 2027 Rugby World Cup, 4 teams are competing: South Korea, Hong Kong, United Arab Emirates and Sri Lanka. The first and second rounds of matches concluded on the 22nd and the third round is scheduled to take place this weekend. The Sri Lankan team, led by Captain Tharinda Ratwatta, has been training at the Racecourse Grounds in Colombo ahead of their crucial match against the UAE, which will be held tomorrow.
We returned last Monday after the Hong Kong match. Due to the flight schedule, we were slightly delayed in resuming practice. However, from the beginning of this week until today, we've trained well. We're expecting a strong performance and aiming for victory. Winning this tournament is essential because it gives the Sri Lankan team an opportunity to qualify for next year's stage. So we are fully focused on securing this win.
The team that wins this qualifying tournament will earn a spot in the 2027 Rugby World Cup representing the Asian region. Sirasa TV and Yes FM are the official media sponsors for the Sri Lankan team in this tournament. All arrangements have been made to broadcast the match live on Sirasa TV starting at 3:30 p.m. tomorrow.
And with that, we wrap up your news for tonight.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night.